Young girls who work at the mall. They get a lot of harassment. Here's 3 stories. Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and get in the mood for shopping with 3 of these stories that happened at retail. Boner dildo man in the mall. Already posted a story this week, but this one is too creepy and hilarious to not share. I worked retail for 3 years, and let's say I have tons of experience that has left me creeped out and uncomfortable. I've had a man ask my bra size and try to guess when I refused to answer, and grown men with no boobs asking me to measure them for bras. But Dildo Man has me and my coworkers calling him a legend. I worked in a women's fashion store in the mall, and the first time I encountered him, there were 3 girls in the store with me. He was wearing a cap very low to cover his face, and he was wearing extremely tight pants, and of course had an obvious boner that was very large. He would always go straight for the lingerie and touch the panties, but he would always make sure his boner was in sight of one of the girls working. I was sitting on the man couch. We had that for men that didn't want to follow their girlfriend around the entire time they were shopping. Literally, he stood right in front of me, and it was in my face. I jumped up and walked behind the register, and he walked to the other side of it and pretended to look at shirts, but always kept his waist turned so his boner was visible. He stayed in the store for 30 minutes, and it was there the entire time. I wanted to say something, but my manager said that if he wasn't touching anyone, there was nothing that could be done, and that we just had to deal with it. He continued to visit our store around 5 times a month, following the girls around while they worked and leaving whenever a male showed up. We asked around, and he was also visiting 2 other female shops in the mall. Until one day, he took it too far and went into a Build-A-Bear. At that point, I was done. He walked into a store with little kids, and that's just disgusting. So I called mall security and told them where he was, and followed him around the mall until they found him and make him leave. A few months later, my store opened a new location 20 minutes away, and a couple of our girls started working there. Guess who became a regular? Boner Man. He went so far as to find one girl on Facebook and describe in great detail about how he loved to come in and stare at us, and how hard it made him, and how he wanted to know us better. He also said that he was an E8 in the Navy and made a ton of money and could buy us things. She told him off and let him know that if he came into the store again or talked to her again, she would call the cops. Later on, we found out he had been arrested at a different location because he walked in the store and completely freaked out a girl working there. Basically, what he did was walk outside, unzip his pants, and took out a dildo and waved it around at an intersection while pleasuring himself. You cannot make this stuff up. Luckily, after his arrest, Dildo Man never showed his face or messaged anyone after that, but just in case. Dildo, Boner Man, let's not meet again. Organized sexual harassment. I am a sales associate for a clothing store in a mall. Our store mandates that one employee must always be stationed at the front of the store to greet customers, maintain the storefront, and also watch for shoplifters. This position is quite boring, as you're basically confined to the front section of the store, which is separated from the rest of the store by a long wall running across most of the floor. This means that all the other coworkers can't see you most of the time unless you stand to the side of this wall. Since it was a rather slow day, I think it was me and only 2 other coworkers on the floor at the time. with my manager downstairs in the basement office. I was greeter, and since the clothes were neatly folded and there wasn't anything for me to clean, I chose to hand out flyers and smile and nod at people walking past the store in hopes of attracting more customers. To be honest, I have been creeped on before by people in the mall, mostly by troops of ugly men who don't seem to have anything better to do than to go window shopping at 11 a.m. But besides the secondhand embarrassment I feel from their sad attempts at flirting, I'm not really affected by it. That day, however, I seemed to have attracted two young guys that didn't just whip out the typical "hey babe, you're so fine" spiel. I had given them a flyer along with a typical customer service smile earlier, and over the next 20 minutes, they had circled the hallway, walking past the store several times over and over again, and very obviously checking me out. Around the fourth time they walked past the store entrance, I pretended I didn't see them and began to rearrange a pile of shirts, hoping they wouldn't come in. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on my side, and they approached me from an angle that awkwardly sandwiched me between them and the separating wall. This rendered me completely invisible to both my coworkers and to any passing customers outside the store. Giving them my most aloof customer service, I asked them if they were looking for something, and they responded in typical fashion. "Oh, we were just browsing. How long have you been working here? Do you like working here?" etc. They were most obviously more interested in me than in the store, but at that moment, I still felt like I had the situation under control. I didn't want to divulge too much information about myself, but I told them that if they were interested in a job, they could talk to the manager and fill out an application. They asked me again if I enjoyed my job, to which I replied with a pretty standard, "Yes, it's hard work, but most of us do really well and move out quickly here," or something to that effect. One of the guys then said to the other, "Oh, I bet she likes being worked hard. She probably does a real good job." He then looked at me and pointedly said, "That was a sexual joke, by the way. We're talking about having sex with you." Thanks, guy. I figured that. In my brain, I wanted to throw something at them, maybe a grenade. But all I did was excuse myself and shuffle away from the gruesome twosome, stammering something and helping other customers. I noticed another male customer standing by one of the tables, and I approached him instead, being as fake nice as possible, asking him if I could help him find anything. The guy gave me this huge smile and stepped very close to me and said, "No, but you could maybe give me and my friends your phone number." At that moment, my stomach dropped through the floor as I realized that this guy not only knew the two other creeps, but was most definitely in cahoots with them for whatever reason. He gave no indication, by the way, that he knew them until he said this. It took me so off guard that I couldn't even reply. The other two joined him, and all three of them gave me this disgusting, predatory look that made me both furious and terrified. I was scared that they were looking at me like I was a piece of meat, and also angry that they felt like they had the right to do so. Unfortunately, I am a really great retail worker, and yelling or otherwise being rude to a customer is not even an option for me, even in a circumstance like this. So all I could do was stare at them in horror for a few moments and try to process what was going on. "So you're Asian? I love Asians. You're so tiny, I bet you're scared of us. You should hang out with us." The three of them were talking to me all at once, saying things that range from gross to downright terrifying. To be honest, I'm having a really hard time writing this without getting distressed, so I'm not really going to relay any of the rapey bullshit they said to me. But believe me when I say that It was too disgusting for words. This whole ordeal couldn't have lasted more than a minute, but I was already in full panic mode, and the moment I saw my manager appear from behind the partition, I was ready to scream. I pushed my way out of their little circle and ran over to my manager, which caused the three creeps to hightail it out of there. I told my manager what happened through tears of panic, and I ended up taking a couple minutes of break downstairs to calm down enough to return to the floor. My manager, thankfully, took me off greeting duty for the day and told me to relay what happened to security. They checked the cameras and determined that these guys were regular visitors to the mall, but they don't know if they have a history of harassing mall employees. Judging by the obviously calculated way they came at me, and the whole setup of one seemingly unrelated creep posing as another customer, this is definitely something they practiced and were probably going to do again, perhaps to another girl, in another store. It was completely disgusting and horrifying, and I even felt ashamed that I had let them talk to me that way before I managed to get away from them. I know it isn't my fault, but it's embarrassing to think that I couldn't stand up for myself in the way I wanted. But this really isn't the sort of thing that our store trained us to deal with, and I'm scared that these guys will return to our store again, especially since our store employs a lot of cute and young high school girls. I'm in college, but I'm a very young-looking Asian woman, and even though I consider myself a strong, independent woman, I was so threatened by these three men that I can't imagine being a 16-year-old girl in that same situation. I'll update if anything further happens, but my manager and I kicked up a huge fuss about it, so I feel a lot safer for the moment. Nonetheless, I hope I never see these disgusting people again. You definitely have the wrong number. I forgot about this story until I found this sub. I guess I'll have to put it out of my mind because of how creepy it was. I was working at a retail store, and I would sometimes have to open by myself in the mornings. I have been there 6 months or so, and I wasn't advancing, so I thought I'd look for another job. I put out quite a few resumes and listed the store manager and the store number as a reference. One day I got a call from a man who sounded very businesslike and older, maybe in his 50s. I answered with the name of the store, and we had to say our names when we answered, so I said, "Thank you for calling our store. This is my name." He says, "Oh, hey, I think I have the wrong number, but maybe not. Did you apply for any jobs recently?" I had applied for so many jobs online that I had lost track, so I said yes. He told me he needed a secretary for his housing business, and I applied for several clerical jobs, so I got excited and said, "Yes, I must have applied there." He started out quite innocent, asking about hours I could work and about my experience. There was no one in the store, so I didn't have any customers to pay attention to. I stayed on for 10 minutes, and then things got creepy. He asked me what I would wear if I were to work for him. I tried to justify that question as being something that would make or break whether or not I would get this job. So I told him a business suit or some slacks with a nice shirt. Then he told me he wanted his secretary to dress sexy. He said his customers enjoy the sight of a sexy woman, and it would help him with business. Stupid me didn't hang up because I wanted the job so badly. Then he said, "Would you wear clothes that I bought you?" I said I guess so. He started to go into detail, telling me what he wanted me to wear and what lingerie to have on. When he asked if I could wear see-through clothes with lingerie that he picked out, I got really uncomfortable and said, "Sir, I think you have the wrong number." He said if I didn't want to be a secretary, that he would put me up in one of his properties for free, in exchange for sexual favors. I screamed, "You definitely have the wrong number." As I was about to hang up, I heard him say, "But you look so good in that gray suit with your hair in that high ponytail." I hung up, locked the doors to the store, and called the police. He described exactly what I was wearing. The police came, and they said it was just a prank call. Every time I was at that store, I would wonder if the middle-aged male customer would be that guy. I worked there for 2 years, and this guy called about every 6 months. I got another call from him after that with the same ruse. "Oh, I think you applied with my company," he would say. I recognized his voice instantly every time. I would scream, "You have the wrong number," and hang up. I had to warn all new hires about this man, and a couple other girls fell for it over the years. I shudder to think, what could have happened? And what could still happen with this guy out there?